This tutorial will demonstrate how to cite an essay that is included in a collection of essays in a particular book. Sometimes publishers will decide to bundle together a number of different essays by different authors into the same book, and typically you have an editor who's brought those together, sorted through the selection, and helped produce the final book. And so when you cite these kinds of sources, you're typically going to be citing the one essay or the one article from the book that you use. And so I'll show you how to do that here. In the SBL Handbook, the paradigm that will help you is in Chapter 6, Section 6.2.12, called an article in an edited volume. So again, we're thinking about one discrete article or one essay that's part of a larger work, an edited volume, and we just want to cite that one particular work. And so as you can see here in the example, which unfortunately spreads across a couple of pages, so that makes it a little bit difficult. You do need to have the author's name of the particular article that you want to cite, the title of that particular essay, and then you'll add the information from the book. So I think it's probably easiest to show an example what that looks like. So we're going to be citing a particular essay from this book edited by Charles Talbert, Perspectives on 1 Peter. We're going to cite Chapter 2 here by Dennis Silva. And so if we're going to cite this particular source, as we noticed in our paradigm from the SBL Handbook, we need first to indicate the author of the particular essay and the title of the particular essay, and that would look like this. So I've got the author's name, last name first, and then the title of the essay in quotation marks because it's a smaller work that's part of a larger work. The larger work it's a part of will be in italics, as we'll see. Once I have that information, then I need to indicate the inclusive pages for the entire article. And I can see that here from the table of contents. I've got the first page, it starts on page 17, and it ends on page 36 because the next chapter, next essay starts on page 37. So I can put that information next. So once I've got that information, now I'll start adding the information that is particular to this book, the larger book that this essay appears in. So I'll need the title in italics and also the information about the editor. I put that in this way. Now you might also notice that this particular work is part of a series, the NABPR Special Studies series, and it's numbered, number 9 in that particular series. So I'll need to include the series information as well. If I make a quick check to the sequence information at the beginning of Chapter 6, I can just confirm that when I enter this information, I have the editor first, right here, and then later on, if I have a series, that will come next. So I want to put the series title after the editor, so I'll put that here next. Notice that I've given the volume number because this particular series is numbered. Now the only thing that remains is for me to add the information for the publisher. You'll notice that I use the ampersand in the name of the publisher because that's what the publisher does. And I could also, of course, check that in Chapter 6 of the SBL Handbook and make sure I know exactly how to write the publisher's name. So that's what a citation would look like in a bibliography. I just want to point out one thing here in the SBL Handbook. If you're looking on the paradigm for this particular information, the paradigm on an article and edited volume. They give some extra information explaining different ways that you can do a short footnote, and I'll talk about that here in a minute before they finally get to the example of a bibliography entry. So just the way this particular section is laid out, it can be a little bit confusing, and it may appear that they have omitted or left out the bibliography entry. They haven't. They just go through several examples of the short footnote before they get to that bibliography entry. So it is there, and that'll help you as you're citing things. Let me show you what it would look like to cite this particular source as a footnote, and then we can talk about the short footnote. Again, I'll start with the same basic information and copy that down here just so I can get a head start and make the various changes that you need to make when you are converting it to a formatting for a footnote. Basically, put the author's name first and then separate things by commas instead of separating them by periods. Now, as in this case, I'm going to remove the page numbers because I'm not going to cite the whole article. Typically, in a footnote, I'm citing just one page. If I were citing the entire article, then I would leave that information just like it is there. But in this case, I'm going to show you what it would look like if I'm going to cite a particular page in that article, which is typically what I'll be doing. So I take out the page information there. I leave the title, and then I abbreviate the editor information as we typically do for a footnote. add commas where there are periods, and then put my parentheses around the publisher information, followed by the page number that I want to cite in that particular work. And so that's what the full footnote would look like the first time that you cite something, cite a source of this kind. The short footnote, as you can see, there are some different options. Typically, the one that you'll use is the simplest, and that is just the author's name, a shortened title, and page number. And it should look like this. So that's a typical short footnote. In most cases, that's all you'll need. But you will notice that the SBL Handbook provides some other options if for some reason this wouldn't be sufficient. So if I have other articles by Silva or other books by Silva, and it might be confusing which one I'm referring to, then I can add extra information. The simplest would just be to add the editor information in parentheses right after the book. And then if it feels like even that is not enough, if I'm citing other articles from this same book. So if I was then this might happen, right? If I'm going to cite several articles from perspectives on 1 Peter, then I would need to follow this example here and provide a little bit more information so that I could distinguish easily between the different articles that I'm citing in this particular work. So there are some options there for the short footnote. In general, this simple author, title, page number should be sufficient.